Good afternoon. Welcome to this special called Design Review Committee meeting of November 20th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The DRC is the subcommittee of historic zoning. The meeting is informal and designed to guide applicants through the process of obtaining a certificate of appropriateness or COA for projects within the city's historic districts in light of the Historic District Design Guidelines. Applicant participation in the DRC meetings is voluntary but highly recommended. Changes made or suggestions taken by the applicant based on the discussions with the DRC are the applicant's choice, but the DRC makes no representation as to whether any changes or suggestions made during the meeting will be approved by the voting body, which is the Historic Zoning Commission. This is a special call meeting to discuss one proposed development plan in light of the Historic District Design Guidelines. The applicant will provide a presentation of up to 15 minutes, then staff will provide comments. Afterwards, the DRC will provide comments. The meetings will conclude at 3:45 in order to allow setup time for the regular 4 o'clock meeting. So we're ready. Discussion of alterations, Winstead House and Carriage House at 423 Margin Street, Franklin Grove. Brandon Pretty, applicant.
Thank you. I'm Brandon Pretty with 906 Studio.
Thank you. Walk us through.
I will, and I will keep this as quick as I can because I want to give most of the time for y'all to ask questions and for discussion. So quick overview. We were engaged by the Heritage Foundation. 906 Studio was engaged by the Heritage Foundation as their project architect. It's probably been a couple months ago at this point. So as we came in, obviously a lot of information to get up to speed on. I will say, and I say this before any time I'm walking anybody through this is not us making changes because I'm a new architect and I need to make changes so y'all know how smart I am. That's not our goal in any way, shape, or form. I've watched some of the meetings from the process before. I do not take lightly any sort of request. Y'all put a lot of time and effort into that. I've got a deep appreciation for that, a lot of respect for that, and I don't in any way want to, like I said, change things to change them. Any proposed alterations, or any alterations we are proposing, I should say, are for accessibility, life safety, functionality for the owner. I want to give them, I can't paint them into a corner, or I don't want to paint them into a corner for 50 years for something. If I see something that I think is worth it, I'm going to suggest that. And finally, and this is probably the biggest one, construction feasibility. When the stage we came in, we were given generally a schematic design to work within. But as you all know, the design process, schematic design development is when you really start to put the parts and pieces together. You do things like, okay, I'm going to put an elevator here. I get the elevator spec. What's my head height? What do I actually need vertically to fit an elevator? I want to build a porch here. What do I physically need to build this porch to make it, look how it needs to look? This is Jim Cross. He's owner's representative with oversight. They were asking anybody else from our group here.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm late. That's all right.
Yeah.
You can sit up here if you'd like.
You're welcome to sit up here. Maybe you don't want to, but
stand hanging out with me. A lot of people don't want to be seen with me. So as we got into that, we discovered some things that frankly just weren't going to be feasible, almost all from a vertical height perspective, or it just wasn't going to work with what was in the approved elevations. So as we've done that, as we've discovered those, that's what makes up a few of the items that we're proposing to change. That's an overview.
okay. Wait a minute. You want to walk us through then all the pieces?
Yeah, I can.
And then they'll comment on it.
Absolutely. So we'll start on the floor plan. What I tried to do in the floor plans to the left, and I really provided this for reference. Obviously, you guys don't approve floor plans, but that I wanted to be able to see while we're doing some things we're doing. The left is the floor plan that the approved elevations were based on. To the right is our revised floor plan. I'll start with the rectangle on the upper left. That is the the porch area off the back, that rear entry, that also includes the elevator location. We had to move the elevator because as our structural engineers were looking, it was originally, as you can see, up against the existing house, and they were just not comfortable with, they were very concerned about undermining the existing foundations of a, 160-year-old house. So for that, and also for purposes of flow and life safety, the other thing that old location did is it kind of blocked that main circulation corridor, so people are having to move through galleries from a life safety perspective. That's not ideal. You want to have a central circulation corridor. So
Well,
people
let me just stop here.
Yes, sir.
Orient us to where I'm looking at on the site.
Okay,
The museum down at the bottom, is that,
so the top is the front,
okay,
and then that red
Okay.
rectangle to the left,
yep,
that is that porch element off the rear that's the new entry.
okay.
And that's the entry, that's similar to where the entry before it was to the left, just up and right of where Emily's cursor is now. Oh, not now. Up just a little bit. That was down a little bit, that door right to the left of that. That was the old entry. And what we're proposing is a larger double door entry to the right. Go right just a little bit. A little bit more. Double doors to right next to the elevator.
Okay.
That's right.
So help me on the previous plan. Is it where it says vestibule? Is that where the elevator was proposed to be under the previous plan?
No, the elevator was proposed to be, if you see where we're showing the elevator now, the elevator was proposed to be up and to the right of that location. So that's the old elevator.
So it's not shown on the old plans?
It is. It's shown. It's that kind of dark rectangle right there. If you can see where her cursor is.
On the plan, it looks like there's like a little green.
Yeah, and on my plan, it says vestibule.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that was a vestibule for the elevator. They didn't, I guess
Yeah.
it wasn't labeled.
So that was my question.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't know which vestibule.
And
Yes.
basically, so you're asking to move the elevator just on the other side of that wall
Yes, on the other, and yeah, down and to the left.
and
So
on the
yes.
exterior of the building.
Yes, sir. Yes.
But it would be basically in that same location.
Yes.
This is also a larger elevator than what was proposed as well. We wanted to be able to- That's a larger elevator than what was proposed because you could not get a gurney in that other elevator.
Yep.
We need to be able to have something larger, to be able to get medical.
Correct, yep.
up there.
Yeah, by code, that was the elevator we were always going to need to have.
Didn't mean to distract you.
No,
so
not at
continue.
all. Yeah. No, and please, as you have questions, please ask. So I guess back to the entry, previously the entry was that single door to the left. That just for a lot of reasons, just wasn't going to functionally work the way it needs to work. It wasn't going to give a good sense of arrival. It was, I think, going to be a somewhat non-intuitive way to enter the building and then come to the gift shop. We wanted to bring you in just somewhere that would orient a little more clearly, and if you're standing, you'd have a little more clear pathway to get there from when you enter off that walk. So that's where we came up with the double door. Also, again, off the main egress path, it's going to be a lot more easy to understand entry, and it's also going to be off the accessible path. So it provides an accessible path that will be the same as, where anybody would come in, which again, a tenet of accessibility is always you're providing an equal opportunity, an equal experience within the building. So that kind of drove those changes. To the right, what?
I'm sorry.
No.
I can't get to my computer, so I'm just having
Oh. Oh. To the right of that, we also opened that up. The previous plan had a little tighter ramp and the stair oriented up and down. It just, we thought, created some not great functionality from a circulation standpoint. Any of these changes are also made on the recommendation of our museum consultant who we've engaged. He's a gentleman who's got deep experience with the Museum of the Native American, with the Smithsonian. He's dealt with a lot of these, so he's talking us through how they're going to move exhibits through once something gets there, how they unpack it. That old circulation was just not going to work. I think it was going to prove to be a very big challenge. And again, I don't want to give somebody a new building they've invested a lot in and it not function to the way it should. We opened that up, rotated the stair to give some more space and to open that ramp up so it didn't feel like such a kind of tight corridor coming through. So that's what drove the proposed changes there. Then added a storage space as well. So, but really those floor plan changes were all functionality and circulation based.
Brandon, and this is all new construction? Or is it-
That, the piece within that rectangle, yes. Yes, that'll be new. And that's what it was going to be. That was new before as well. Where
Right,
we had the ramp and the sun porch off the back. So we're not proposing removing anything that wasn't within the original proposal to remove.
You're really just reconfiguring the inside floor space.
Yes, sir. The skin, I mean,
Yeah.
the skin moved a little bit,
Yeah,
but yes. we're
Appreciably not.
Correct, yes. We're not adding a 20%, big chunk of space at all. It's nothing of that size.
Okay, you want to comment on that, but we do it a piece at a time?
Yes, I wanted to ask a quick question while we're here. So is this new exhibit prep room, will it be able to be seen if you're looking at the front elevation? Will this protrude from the side?
It will, and it will look the same with the exception of the doors, which there was a drive there in the site plan. At some point, there were going to need to be doors there. Otherwise, why have a drive? But those will be glass doors. So again, that was conceived of kind of a recreation of the sun porch that had been on there previously. I know there was an image that showed that. We'll have the same look. It'll be glass doors. It'll be that same. You'll see the same thing basically that you were going to see before.
And I think that's on one of your elevations, right?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. It should be on the
wanna-
front you'll see it on the front elevation, the first elevation sheet.
This is all ground floor.
Yes.
Yes.
So when you said, okay, if I'm looking at it, I switched to I'm probably getting it off track.
You're all right.
I'm just going to, why don't we switch to the elevations that
Okay.
are impacted by that
Yep.
floor plan and just,
That actually is probably good. That'll make it easier, I think, to
that'll
talk through.
help me anyway.
So to what we were just discussing, to the left, so the left elevation is what was approved. You can see the piece bumping off to the left. That was the sun porch. To the right, you'll see what we're proposing. Again, a very, very similar aesthetic. It'll be glass. The doors will be glass. It should look very, very similar to what was proposed.
Here we go, okay.
But you're actually proposing another addition on the back that covers part of the original doors. Am I seeing that? That's what's shown on the drawing.
What piece are we?
I'm looking at so if I look at this elevation.
Yep.
So you see where the previously approved.
Yep.
You see all the brick of the main house, and then
Yes.
you go to what's being proposed now, you see a new glassed
Yes.
in area.
Yes. So what that is, currently, that piece is enclosed currently. That's the basement access. That's the only basement access. There's another door that accesses one of the rooms off the back. So that's enclosed now. They were going to pull that off and just let that be the back of the house per the original. I'm proposing this new kind of sun porch piece to skin it because back to function, I was concerned that, there's a lot of, there's electrical panels, there's a lot in that basement you may need to get to. I was concerned that if you've got a storm, if you need to get down there, there's a pretty good chance something's going on outside that is making that happen. Functionally, I just didn't love having to send somebody outside to go back in. I also was worried about how to kind of secure those basement doors. Well, there's not doors on there now. You'd have to come back and, it would kind of be the old cellar doors that open that way. You can do it. It's just not, to me, that's not great functionality-wise. It's an ongoing operational issue, and that felt like a way to clean that up, make that access easier and more long-term feasible. So
So
that's
what I'm understanding is that that exists currently today.
It
That's
is
not
in-
a change.
it is enclosed today. We're going to remove it and rebuild that enclosure, but it is enclosed today.
Same footprint or larger, smaller?
I believe it's a smaller footprint. A lot of that on the back is being pulled off. It'll be a smaller footprint. I'm going from memory, but I'm pretty sure it's a smaller footprint.
So, well, so then on the previous elevation, you had, at the second floor, you had a sunroom, but that is being this elevator, I'm assuming that's an elevator shaft that's taking the place of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And we kind of filled that in. If you want to go back to the second floor plan, I can probably speak to that, yeah. So when we move the elevator, the rest of that space becomes an elevator lobby, and then we've kind of got the glass sun porch type of feel. Both walls, the wall vertically from that elevator shaft, the square in the bottom left corner, there's the elevator shaft. So the wall running vertically and up, and then the wall running to the right to kind of fill the rest of that corner in. Those would give the sun porch feel to that. And you can see those in the elevation as well.
Okay, can I make a comment here? So aesthetically, it's not coming across, it's very utilitarian looking right now. And I think, is there anything you can do aesthetically to,
Do you want to pull the elevation up? Is that what you're talking about?
well, the new elevation proposed?
Yeah.
You know, the old elevation had arcaded area, and so this is just, it's very straightforward, but is there anything you can do to make that more aesthetic?
Where, are you talking about where
the double doors are,
double doors are? On the front?
on the back.
Those, and part of that may be the drawing. We kept those arc pieces are still there. I think the line weight may not read as well, but that back porch, we kept all
Okay,
those pieces.
You're right, it's not
Yeah.
reading very well. So,
Yeah,
Okay, good.
But it's still bigger.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, it is hard to read.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, it's just,
Yeah, the aesthetics of that rear porch are very, very similar to what was there
Good.
before. Like I said, it looks nice, it works, didn't want to mess with that.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Emily, do you have any comments on this?
I did want to comment on this addition here. I pulled up from the previous COA the historic photograph of what was submitted that I believe was originally there or added, and then it was demolished, and then it was proposed to be added back. And so the intent of the past COA was to add it back. And so it was approved, and it was, even though the guidelines say that porches should not be added on like highly visible facades, but since there was photographic evidence, it was voted on and approved because while it wasn't an exact match, some of the massing was the same. And so the proposed one doesn't exactly match it, and I didn't know if it was possible to design maybe the middle section with the door so it reads more as a window. And so
We-
it reads, more similar to the historic photo.
And we tried to do that with the doors that are shown there. I mean, they're full glass doors. We wanted them to read as windows as much as we could. I think the dimension is, it may be a foot more off the side of the dimension is similar because again, we were staying within that footprint. I'm trying to think of what we could do to, probably the biggest difference is, you've got 3 bays on the one on the left and, obviously you got a double door. If you're going to center it, we've got 4 bays. If it would help, we could, I guess, lose one of those bays and just have, you'd have 2 bays be the door and then a 3rd bay as a window to to match that. Do you know if the 3 bays was a direct response to the old photograph?
Let's
I've
see.
looked, it's hard to really tell.
It looks like there's 2.
Yeah,
And so the purpose for the doors on the front is for exhibit prep?
yeah, to bring things in and then
So
prep the
that's the
exhibits.
reason those doors.
Yes, sir, yeah. And again, if you look at the site plan, there was a drive running to that point. I'm not sure why there wasn't a door there, but it's a logical place for a door. And from a functionality standpoint, it's, you bring it right into the prep room, do what you need to do, and then distribute your exhibits.
Have you explored a door on the other side?
We have, like you're talking about on the side, kind
On
of
the
facing
side.
the side. We have the trick is there's a pretty good chance, truck is going to back in there to unload and then you bring things out. If you put it on the side, we don't have enough room for that radius to make that turn for that truck to back in and approach it from the side. It kind of has to back straight in. But I had that exact same thought and looked at it to try to take it around the corner. We just couldn't make it work. And if we did that, we would also have to modify the elevation. If you look at the elevation of that side, there's a gable piece. It's probably the next page. That gable piece, that's where those doors would have to come into. So you'd be modifying that as well, which again can be done. It would just,
You mean the pediment that's over the windows that you're talking about?
well, I guess I'm saying those windows would have to become, if that's going to be a door, you would just have to rework that piece to fit a door within that pediment.
But that would work with the truck.
No, it wouldn't work. The truck can't make that turn to deliver there anyway.
You're trying to get the doors off of the front facade, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
I mean, there are a lot of doors on the front. I mean, you kind of want to have your main entrance.
And it does mirror image the old photograph to not have doors on the front.
Yes.
I think it just adds a little enhancement to the front elevation to not have doors.
That would have been my preference. And we're up against a property line there as well, so it's just that end is tight.
What if we were to make those doors look more like a window, meaning that
That's what,
the wood would come up so high and it would match like
That's
the
what
base
I'm
of a
thinking.
window?
I'm thinking it's probably gonna be a custom door anyway.
Want to zoom in on that, Emily? It may help, because we really tried to,
Because you're really not gonna want to drag stuff through the front door.
What I'm
Yeah.
thinking on that elevation is that the base of those windows would come up to match the previous elevation so that it looks like it's the same elevation and those look
Yeah.
like windows instead of doors.
absolutely.
Emily, can you show that old photograph again? Can we tell what kind of foundation? Was that a stone foundation? The way that they just portrayed it on the original drawing?
I think that it appears to be stone and like right here. If I had to assume.
Okay. Yeah, it
If you
kind of looks
squint
that
one
way.
eye, kind of close the other, I think it's also, it looks stone.
But probably if Mr. Chastain worked on it for a whole day, he could figure that out.
And we could certainly have a stone kind of base of some sort on that
If you did that though, the door's gonna be accentuated where the door
That's
will
true.
disappear.
if it's all the same. Yep, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's why it's back to the door on the side. I know it might be inconvenient, but I mean, things can be carried. I mean, just throwing it out.
Yep.
so looking at that picture and thinking ahead, so how's the truck gonna get in there? I mean, I know those trees are gone, the drive's there, but
Yeah. Do you have that site plan available? It'll make perfect sense when you see, there's a
Okay.
drive that comes right up to that
right,
point.
right there.
Yes, sir.
From walking it, I think I remember that, but that.
So that little
Okay,
offshoot,
all right, I see. Okay, I
And
got
that's
you.
existing today.
no, that's all
That's
new. Yeah, that'll be new.
Okay.
I mean,
There's a drive that comes.
there is a drive there. I'm guessing they're doing some level of repaving. I don't know if that little offshoot
that's-
is actually there. It may
The
be.
offshoot's there, but
Yeah.
it just continues on around.
That's right. Yeah.
But that actually,
That's a service entrance right there,
basically.
Yep.
the way that's drawn.
So that was planned to be a service entrance before, and then it just got to where doors were not put there.
Oh,
yes.
Or were the doors on the side?
There were no doors on the side.
Okay, so there's just no doors, but
Correct. There wasn't a door on the floor plan.
but in the site plan, the drive was still,
Yes, sir.
it remained.
Yes.
And it seems for lots of reasons, the door on the side would be best. Is there any way?
We can look, just kind of visually looking at if you have a drive kind of basically running vertical and then making that turn. We can look and see what those radiuses would be.
We
It just
we
seems-
we would also lose that landscaping that's in there too.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's a, yeah.
Well, you know, my thought, you could back into that space and then just take it around the corner. I mean, you know, I don't think this is major, just a thought.
It just seems like it would get old pretty quick to have trucks backing into the front facade of this.
Well,
Yeah.
what's the intent of that door, that access?
So-
Is it to move museum pieces in and out?
Yes.
And that's it?
Yeah, so you're only talking about, it's not like they're bringing daily anything.
It's
You're
not a
talking
daily
about,
delivery.
it's going to get used once every, it'll
For
get
exhibits,
used 4
and they
times a year.
Change them out, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 4 times a year whenever they bring a new exhibit, and that's probably at the most.
Can I make one thing? Whenever we're talking, can we make sure that we press the microphone? Thanks, sorry.
I want to bring the conversation back, though, to aesthetics, because that's what we were talking about at the beginning, and not so much its function, but the aesthetics of it. So that was I think, that was my main concern, was the aesthetics.
Okay?
So,
You're talking about of that specific piece.
of that specific piece. And the way the drive is configured, if the drive, rather than coming into the front of the building, were to come around to the side, you know, then your truck could just back in and then head out in a forward direction. I mean, I think that would work from what I'm seeing from that drive. You would eliminate that part of the drive that goes into the very front of the house
Yep.
and bring it into the side.
Yep. Well, I mean, we'll certainly ask if they say, no, that's too tight a radius, but we'll revisit, but I don't see any reason, you know, outside of that it wouldn't work. And I completely understand wanting to pull those doors off the front. I think that's
Yeah, my
doable.
comment would be make it not look like a loading dock.
It will not look like a loading dock.
But I mean, even
But yeah.
just as far as like getting rid of that drive and just doing it on the side, and it may, not
Yeah.
provide a turning radius
We-
for a truck.
We could certainly,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest, I'm also having to consider, we've got an approved site plan. I didn't want to make changes there if I didn't have to, but we're going to probably have to make some tweaks there. So we'll make that work.
It's a front elevation,
Yep,
so I think
absolutely.
it's critical.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
move on. We got about 15 minutes, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I'd love to get feedback on, I'll kind of walk through the biggest elevation change, that rear elevation. And back to my construction feasibility, the elevator was just, the location they had it, it just physically there wasn't a way that was going to work. If you look at an elevator of the type we're going to have, really any type, they've got to have a certain head clearance. You've got a hoist beam. There's a lot of things an elevator has to do, and it's got to do it within a certain vertical dimension. You know, if you look at if that elevator was originally intended to be like directly to the left of the old house, so if you look directly to the left of the red, like the old house right there, you just didn't remotely have the eave height for that to fit and work. So at some point, something was going to need to be resolved. Our proposed resolution was to add a piece. My challenge was if I brought the whole height, if I ran it back, I was going to interrupt an existing roof line. I obviously do not want to do that. I was really worried that it would overwhelm if I tried to keep everything at that roof line. So I took just the piece around the elevator. And you can see, excuse me, Emily, if you want to zoom in where that peaked roof, that little piece, we basically brought a vertical piece up for the elevator and then kind of came low and joined it with kind of the windows to either side. If you've got that 3D, that may show a little better what we're proposing.
I have a question.
Yep.
So the arcade is shorter in this new elevation than it is in the original elevation. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
Okay. And the reason for that being,
Technical constructability. If you look at that elevation, they literally were showing you had the top of the curved columns, and you had about this much room. And that, I didn't really understand how the roof was going to work. If it was going to slope and pitch, obviously we do that. It's going to bring it down. You've got to have framing. There was a lot that needed to happen there that, they just hadn't gotten that far in design yet to account for it. So we brought it down. That height is still 10 feet. So you've got 10 feet clear on that porch, which I think will feel perfectly comfortable. If anything, once you get above that, if it's raining, you start to lose the functionality of your cover. If that cover's 12 feet in the air and you're only 4 or 5 feet deep on a porch, it's just not going to do as well. But I wanted to keep those pieces, but we just had to make it work. They got to build it. So you can see this shows, I think, a little better than the flat drawing, what we're proposing on that elevator. Again, it's certainly a different look. That was the best way I could come up with to deal with the verticality of that elevator shaft.
So let's go back to the
Go ahead.
go back to the elevator itself. So I know you said, so the previous architect didn't take that in consideration, that the height
Yeah.
of the elevator, or it was I guess, disturbing the foundation. I heard that
Both.
too. And that would be for like a pneumatic or hydraulic lift rather than,
This will be a hydraulic elevator. It's just 2 stories.
so you will have to create a foundation for that.
Yes.
Deep enough to accommodate the
Yep.
hydraulics.
Elevator
of that.
pit. Yes, sir. Yeah.
And then when it goes to the very top, why in the house would you need extra, if it had remained in that vestibule area originally?
Yep.
Why would you need extra space
Above.
above?
So that's just the specifications that we got from the elevator manufacturer. They've got the cab, they've got a clearance above that. They'll have the hoist beam that they put in when they're putting all that together, and then obviously you've got a frame on top of that. So once you kind of did the math and put all those pieces together, you're talking about needing, really off the finished floor, 12 feet plus, give or take.
Would you need a hoist beam for hydraulic lift?
I think that's what he said he had on the spec.
And then when I think about the foundation disturbance, since it's going to be just on the other side of the same wall, one would have been interior, the one exterior, you're still going to disturb the same foundation.
Well, we'll be pretty far off of that. Where that elevator location is now, we're 8 feet off that foundation. The new location is off that existing wall.
By 8 feet.
Yeah, yes. Maybe 7, but far enough out that we're not going to. Our structural engineers looked at it and they feel much better about that than trying to get up against the existing wall.
So it connects to the upper porch, not to the actual brick of the house.
Correct. Yes.
Just for me aesthetically, the tower just doesn't work. I mean, as far as the style and where it is, it really disrupts the aesthetic of the house. I mean, if we were talking about a residential, I don't know, where you can't see from the back, but all the guests are going to see this 360-degree view.
Yep.
So, if the elevator has to remain in that spot, I mean, I'd like to see that thought through a little bit more.
Yes, and we would, it is located on the rear. We separated it as much as we could off of the existing house. I know with the guidelines, you want to have a clear demarcation between what's new, what's existing. We didn't interrupt any of the existing roof lines. I tried to keep aesthetically, I wanted to keep it as simple as I could keep it. The overhangs to work within that Italianate style. Again, some simple trim detailing. It's tough because it is what it is. It's a vertical element that I've got to deal with. I didn't want to add any ornamentation, didn't want to do anything to bring any more attention to it than we are. But felt like the cleanest way to deal with, the vertical piece that I've just got to have in that location.
Okay, you've got kind of the sense, I
Yep.
think, on this. What's on the next, what about this northeast perspective?
Well, can I say one thing about the elevator? I mean, it's lovely, but if you could just tone the architecture down on it would be my input.
When you say that, are you talking about the
arch,
three vent pieces? Just,
those, and then I think anything to make it look, to make your trim elements push it, get
Yeah.
it a push down.
kind of probably bring that bottom piece down even more so it's,
Something like
Yeah,
that.
understood.
Just something that would make it look more.
Minimize the architectural impact?
Yes.
Would that be a
Thank you,
correct way to say
Jim.
that?
That's what I
Well,
was trying to
sometimes-
say.
Maybe a different roof.
And yeah, I was,
Yeah.
A different roof
different
too.
roof.
Yes.
I was going to ask, is the current roof, will it be taller than the existing?
I think we had intended it to be below. I think it ends up going past, but we'll just bring the slope down on that. Another option would be just a flat roof. Yeah, we can certainly do that.
I think you explore that.
It's,
Okay, we got several other pieces to try to
Okay.
talk about. Let's kind of move on.
Yeah, look-
What about that?
that back piece.
That
on the
back
other-
piece.
Yeah, this. So the bottom where the glass, the gable, all that's what was there before. We have not modified what was proposed. The only change is when we rotated that stair, we kind of brought that piece kind of towards you as you're looking at it. Kept the same, aesthetic. It was simple siding, windows. We didn't try to make any big statements. We did flatten the roof again for functionality. Otherwise, you're trying to fit a sloped roof up under the existing eaves, and it just gets very tight out at the end. But try to keep it. If you look at the elevation, try to keep the language and the aesthetic as similar as possible to what was there before.
Okay, and this piece backs up to the drive that goes around, so it's.
Yes. Yeah,
all
it's
right.
it's the least visible piece of the whole site.
And the boxy elements, they're additions, they're not there currently.
Correct.
And can I ask, will this be seen, if you're looking at the front elevation, will this stick out?
No.
Any farther than this?
No.
Okay, thanks.
No, it is set back from that piece. You can kind of see the roof line where the shed roof pitches back, that there's some depth between those two.
Okay. Emily, do you have any other comments on that part of it?
No, we were just curious to see if it would protrude out if you were looking at the front elevation. And that was the only thing we had a question on.
Brandon, before I forget it, when you do come back for the final, I would get some current photos of these different elevations.
Okay.
So that we can better plug in, rather than
Okay.
just relying on memory,
Yep.
which mine is fleeting.
And the box elements, they are new office space. Do I understand that right?
To the piece coming out to the left, it's a stair. It's the new egress stair, which was what was in there before. We just changed the position, and then the others are new offices. Yes, sir.
And just, in passing, one comment I would make is that when this first came before us, there was a lot of discussion from the Franklin Grove side about preserving the house, its character, about, what it is. And it seemed to be a lot of emphasis on that. And now what I'm seeing to the rear of the house, it seems we're going a little bit different direction. So that's just why it takes a little bit to try to understand what's going on with this.
Where are you talking about, like where we glassed in the piece, or?
So the two boxed additions that we're seeing come out, I mean, that's new. That we're seeing, and on the back, they had removed that part, used the part of the basement to show
Yep.
more of the house, and now we're leaving that portion. There's some changes that aesthetically, Well, what was originally proposed aesthetically for just based as an old house, I mean, was just spot on. It
Yeah.
looked really good.
And I understand that, appreciate that. I think our approach is there's been a lot done to that over time. The pieces that have not been disturbed on the front, we're, not touching any of that. The main house, this is a piece that's an existing addition and was proposed as addition. I guess we added a slight bit to it, but are not, this piece are not proposing to interrupt anything that either hasn't been interrupted already or was proposed to be kind of changed and modified. Because we did try to be sensitive to letting the house, the house is the star, letting it stay and not proposing anything that's, that's over top of a historically significant piece of that, where they were pulling pieces off, really with the exception of that little sun porch off the back. To protect that basement access, we've not come back and added new pieces. We did try to be sensitive to that.
And I'd say, Brandon, the box, upper story addition that sticks out the most, if there's any way to soften the box of that a bit.
Okay.
I do understand why you did what you did, because you're trying to pull on the Italianate style, and typically they'll have a bell tower, and so I see what you're doing, and so I understand the challenges with that.
All right, let's move on to that carriage house change,
Okay.
if that's the correct
Yes.
terminology for it.
And that one is very, very simple.
Yeah.
No. So the only change we're proposing to this is on the rear where that little low hip is. That was going to come off already. We're still proposing that come off. We're just adding a little bit larger gable piece that would, or not gable, a piece that would then hip back, but would add some space, just functionality, allow them to have some office and a small conference room space and allow that open office to remain as is. So if you
Now,
look,
that's number 12 on your site plan, right? On this legend, that's the number 12 piece, I
I
think?
believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is, that's
I want to make
correct.
sure I'm
Yep,
right with the terminology. Okay. All right, any comments on that?
I have a question on the south elevation. Is that a chase wall?
yes, it is. You're talking about the one, the rectangle in the middle?
Yeah.
That's, yes,
So
that's
it's
an
a
existing
wall
chase.
For the HVAC ductwork?
Yes, and that's existing on the house now. We're just showing it and we'll just clad around it to match everything else.
So currently, the ductwork is on the exterior of the house, of the
There's
carriage house.
There's a package unit and then it comes in and kind of runs vertically and then into the space. So the ductwork is not on the outside, but they built out, I can only assume, to enclose the ductwork.
So that's currently existing, you're
Yes.
just going to enclose it?
Yes.
Anything else?
On the on the north elevation, Brandon, is it possible, even if it's a closed shuttered looking window, to have another window? You've got the chunk that comes out with,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll add a window to that.
Anything else? There's silence. Brian's got something.
Well, it's on something we did skip a little bit earlier, I think,
All right.
having to do with, I guess it's the, meeting room addition and the type roof, pyramid, and
Yeah.
Is that a change, or is that just in the drawings?
I actually went back and realized that after I submitted, that's a drawing error. The roof will look the same. Excuse me. The roof will look the same. It'll have the same type of roof as what was approved.
You need to fix that when you come back now.
It's already been fixed.
And I think what Jim said about bringing existing drawings.
Yeah.
I mean, not drawings, excuse me,
Photographs.
photographs.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, I will definitely include, we'll
Yeah.
have photos that make that, I think, easier
It
to
really helps.
understand that. We put a lot of time into just, we were scrambling at the elevations, but 100% agree with the photos. We'll have that.
I think especially as that we spent a lot of time talking about that access into this area on the left side.
Yep.
That would be very helpful
Okay,
to understand more about what you're trying to do.
okay.
Comment, the transition between the historic building and what they're calling the carriage house is very different than what was brought originally. And again, I think when you're doing hyphens like that, you're wanting to have something that shows this, bank of windows. It's just, again, it's not coming across aesthetically as well.
Are you talking about this image?
You talking about this piece? Or are you talking about
Yes.
the carriage house across the driveway?
Oh,
This piece? This piece?
that piece.
Yeah,
So
the one
what,
that, yeah, it's connected to the house, the back of the house.
right.
The,
So-
what do they call it?
Well, it was called Hieronymus Hall forever and ever.
Yeah, the museum space, I think, is what it's labeled, or what it was
They don't
labeled
have
at.
a- yeah, they don't
So you're
have a-
talking about this, because this, we didn't, and again, I know that there's a challenge graphically, legally, I can't take somebody else's drawings and do anything to them, so we
Gotcha.
reproduced it. I'm still getting the graphics cleaned up, and they're going to be a
Okay.
lot cleaner next time you see these. But we're not proposing any sort of change on the lower level of this elevation that you're looking at.
Okay.
On either side?
But the roof line.
Yeah, the roof line to the left, the roof line, that's been fixed. That was the drawing error. And the roof slope there, that'll look as it did. The door changed position just based on a floor plan note. But the lower level of that, we're not proposing changes. We'll keep
What
the
about on
glass.
the west elevation? That's the east, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's see.
It looks
So
so
it looks like
different.
it looks different there.
You
Now,
saw-
this one is different.
Okay.
Yeah, you see the vertical element that the box addition at the top creates,
Yes.
which truncates that that connector piece.
Yes. And you've got that new sun porch piece kind of poking out in front of the connector as well. And that was, we just ended up with storage where those shutters are shown. So kind of looked at doing some faux shutters as opposed to full height glass into that storage space. But again, that was a plan thing. That if we needed to come back with glass there into that storage room, we certainly could. We may just have to do something to the inside, but if that look is important, we can maintain that look. I guess my thinking was as a joiner piece, it's not, it's not predominant in the experience of that elevation, but we could certainly go back and keep that with glass and just treat the inside of it, make it one way, something like that.
What is the purpose of the piece
Yeah, that's,
that's disturbing that part of the,
What piece?
A
The
hyphen.
the second
upper
level
part,
piece? That is the stair, where we reposition that stair and floor plan. You're looking at the other end of the stair. So we shifted the stair out to free up some space in that plan because it was just creating, the former layout, it just created an awkward configuration and honestly some spaces inside that were long and skinny and not really useful. So we shifted that stair, but when we did it kind of pulled it out past the face of that house. But bear in mind, that's set back quite a bit from the face of the historic home.
Moving past the storage room to, you've changed the entrance into that space. Is it?
No,
I mean,
that's that's the graphics of the drawing. We're not proposing
okay,
a change to
okay,
that.
okay.
Excuse me, did that addition past the elevator get taller, or is that just the drawing?
The addition to the left of the elevator,
The rear, the rear addition
that
past the elevator. Did it get taller, or is that just because of the way it's drawn? The one that has the chimney sticking?
oh yeah,
It's
no, that
no
we
taller,
didn't.
is
No,
it? It's-
no,
yeah,
that's
that's what
existing.
I
That's
thought.
staying. Yeah, that's
Okay.
staying as is.
Okay, anything else? All right, I think we're done.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
everybody
Thank you.
taking your time and coming early and walking through this with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Closer.
Okay,
We appreciate
we're adjourned for this special meeting then.